This is Mark Boone of Hong Kong Baptist University's Religion and Philosophy Department with a Christian perspective on desire. Why aren't we happy? Human beings just aren't as happy as we want to be. We may experience some happiness in life, but it usually does not last very long. We are plagued by anxiety and disappointment. We want what we cannot get, cannot keep even if we do get it, and worry about losing even if we can keep it for a while. Money slips away when we think we have it. People who love money never have enough, as we read in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. Power does not satisfy either. We can't get enough to satisfy us, and we can't keep what we get, or we can never get it in the first place. Or fame. We want no death for ourselves or for our loved ones. And there again we are disappointed. This is the human condition. We could call this the problem of desire. And the problem of desire is that we are not satisfied by whatever the world has to offer. So what do we do about this? That is the ancient question the Stoics, the Epicureans, the Buddhists, and the Platonists were out to answer, and some great Christian philosophers like Augustine, Boethius, and Anselm, and the philosophers of the Enlightenment. Since the problem is that the world and our desires don't fit, one way is to try to change the world, fix the world up so that it will satisfy us. Descartes and Francis Bacon helped to set the agenda for modern science as a strategy for doing just this. Meanwhile, others like Machiavelli were trying the same plan with politics. That's the modern Western Enlightenment philosophy approach, change the world to fit our desires. Another approach is to change desire instead of the world, and this can go one of two ways. Since desire is stronger than what the world can give us, we could just figure out strategies for desiring less, cut desire down to size. That's the approach of Epicureanism and Stoicism in ancient Western philosophy, and in the East, it's also the approach of Buddhism. Then there's the approach of redirecting our desires to something better than the world, something that will actually satisfy, no matter how strong our desires are. This is the approach of the Christian medieval philosophers. You can see hints of this in C.S. Lewis' writings as well, more recently, and you can find this approach also in ancient Platonist philosophy and in some other religious traditions, like the medieval Sufi thinker Ibn Tufil and Hinduism's the Bhagavad Gita. But which approach is right? Well, I think you can have a coherent Christian perspective on desire, but it's going to have to be multifaceted. We have a lot to learn about desire. Before we even get started with looking at how to fix the problem of desire, let's look at one interesting insight about the problem itself. And that insight is that it's not always all that problematic. Not entirely. This is something I learned reading a book called The Poverty of Nations by the theologian Wayne Grudem and the economist Barry Asmus. In this book, The Poverty of Nations, they explain that the fact that human desires are unsatisfiable is good for the economy. It means there will always be enough demand for new ideas, new products and services, plenty of productive work for people to do. Human beings will never run out of useful work they can do because human beings will never run out of desires. Unsatisfied desire, and the fact that desire is unsatisfiable, is good for the economy. The Poverty of Nations is a good book, and I recommend it. It will probably explain this better than I do. But there's still the problem of dissatisfaction. And after all, the whole point of having a good economy is to meet our physical, material demands as much as possible. And the reason to do that is to achieve as much happiness as possible. And here's where we are confronted again with the problem of desire. We cannot be satisfied by these means. So how do we satisfy our desires? Well, those modern philosophers like Descartes, Bacon, Machiavelli, they're right about some things. We can and should change a lot of things to make the world a better place. This is why we have polio vaccines, and thank God we have them. It's a very good thing we have polio vaccines. The desire to have no one else suffer from polio is a desire that can be satisfied, and more changes like that in the world are possible. But then, people like the Stoics and the Buddhists are right about some things too. Think of babies whining over their unsatisfied desire. Give me my snack now or I will throw a tantrum. Ah! Part of maturity is learning to control our desires, learning to live with dissatisfaction, learning to desire what is possible. But the Christian should not only have those three insights in mind so far, the economic insight that unsatisfied desire can be good for the economy, the insight drawing from early modern Enlightenment philosophy that changing the world to fix our desires, to fit our desires, sometimes that's necessary. And then third, the approach of changing desire by reducing it, cutting desire down to size. That's also a necessary part of life. But the Christian perspective also must have at least one more aspect. The Christian should also learn from people like Augustine, and C.S. Lewis. Our job is to desire God. There is unlimited goodness there for our enjoyment. As is written in the Psalms, Psalm 37, verse 4, "Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart."